Here we are, and welcome to the virtual arena of the streaming wars. That's right, their evolution has led us to this endgame moment, which will determine who survives and how. And today, as we go headfirst into a sea of potential with a whole lot of rumors swirling about including a very real planned collaboration between Apple and a desperate Paramount, the next phase will be brutal. So let's separate some fact from some fiction and dive right into the streaming wars. Round 3. Fight! Now, before we get started, a quick reminder that we are headed to 15K here, at least as far as subscribers go, and by the end of the month, I would love to get to that number. So if this is your first time here or your 400th, please go down below, hit the subscribe button for me, and while you're down there, hit that like button too. Hopefully you won't miss any of the wonderful videos or live streams that I do for everybody each and every week. Now, with that out of the way, forward into the scrum. At present, we actually have two streaming giants exploring the possibility of joining forces. And this would be Apple Plus TV or Apple TV Plus or however you want to say it. Although they've been lauded for their content quality, it seems to be swimming in a tiny pool of content compared to the vast libraries of the other big behemoths out there like Disney Plus and others. Its viewership, well, Apple Plus's viewership remains relatively low, and the recent price hike in subscription costs there at Apple are probably going to create a more daunting situation with a complete dearth of content. So what's their current strategy? Well, rumor has it right now that they might be considering a bundle with Paramount Plus, and this is actually a little bit more than a rumor. Looks like this is actually the plan, and the move could potentially boost their appeal in the streaming arena, and it can move us into a point where the aggregator concept comes more fully into play. That's something we've talked about here in the past, and I think this brings us closer to. Of course, this isn't entirely new for Apple. This is something they've done before. Back in 2020, they teamed up with CBS All Access for a bundled offer. However, that of course cooled off and tempers flared, yet now that the streaming market is no longer a paradise for subscription growth, it's now a battleground for mere survival. The big guns like Netflix and Disney are playing a completely different game right now, and the smaller players are scrambling for a ground game. So bundles are going to become the survival tools, and Paramount's potential, at least as far as their deal with Apple goes, is just another move in this high-stakes game. But the question might be, why now? Why are they doing it now? Aside from obviously survival of the fittest, and they intend to survive, well, even NBC Universal's Peacock, with its substantial subscriber base, isn't shying away from bundling strategies. They're moving forward with those in various ways, and I'm sure we'll talk about them in the future. For these smaller streamers, however, every additional subscriber counts in the face of soaring operational costs, which have done nothing but explode recently, and the intense scrutiny of streaming by investors as far as profitability goes is something that weighs very heavily on everybody's minds. Now, Apple, despite being a tech titan, is feeling the heat too, because they don't want this thing to die off, and their recent massive investments have been, well, eyebrow raising at the very least if you look at what they're putting into historical epics. This puts them under additional pressure right now to make their streaming service a success. So even though they sit upon untold billions of dollars, well, they need some progress. And Paramount hasn't gone through exactly an easy voyage either if you've been paying attention. And you can set Star Trek aside because it really hasn't helped and just focus in on the fact that they only have a few shows that have really, well, taken off. Despite some of their subscriber growth driven by things like, well, Yellowstone, their scale doesn't seem to match the streaming bigwigs that exist out there, as I named before. The buzz about potential acquisitions and the company's future is constantly, well, swirling around, and industry analysts are taking a very close look at what the future could be for Paramount and, of course, Global Amusements. Could Apple's interest in the bundle be a precursor to a possible acquisition? And that's a pretty good question that a lot of people have been whispering about, but the reality might not align with that kind of speculation, especially with the increased scrutiny on big tech acquisitions. And While some have suggested outright that Apple could acquire Paramount at any moment in time, I still think it's improbable. If you look at Tim Cook's past patterns and the current regulatory climate, it makes it unlikely that Apple would dive headfirst into owning linear TV networks. It would really muddy the waters. So instead of that, this partnership might be a survival tactic for both companies, aiming to justify their streaming ventures and secure their positions in what is now a very cutthroat industry. So with that, there you have it. This is what I think will be the first domino to fall in the newest battleground of the streaming war. It's the end game. The stage is actually very clearly set at this point, and you could see in the next couple of weeks an Apple Paramount bundle that you could sign up for, and at a lowered cost. But is that move a harbinger of an acquisition or merely a strength of partnership? And I think that we'll find out soon enough. And right now I'm hearing rumblings of even more bundles on the horizon. So I think we're going to start seeing those mass aggregators that, again, like I said at the beginning of the video, we've been talking about. But what do you think? I mean, are bundled streaming services the future, or do they spell something else entirely? I would love to hear what you have to say, so share your comments in the section down below. And be sure to take care of yourself, take care of others. And until next time, see ya!